Okay, hi everyone. This is Gary Wilson, and welcome to tonight's live Q&A webinar for the Investor Agent Training Program. It is Tuesday, August the 11th, and a couple of subjects we're going to dig into tonight. Again, in order, I'm going to put them in order that we got them. First thing is going to be an email from Anthony Ogletree in Pittsburgh. He wants to know how do we approach people going into default. The next one was going to be from Miranda Deja, I believe that's how it's pronounced, Dedeja. She has a lot of questions on rentals. And I've given you guys the book, Turning Rental Problems into Real Estate Profits. That's what happens after you own the properties. This book is about how do you actually get the property. So if you think about your investor agent training program, we give you the fundamentals so that you can walk the talk and operate effectively in the marketplace in a meaningful, effective fashion so that your clients prosper and you prosper, okay? This book goes in a little bit more in depth. There is obviously a training program, and I'm not here to promote that. I don't do that on these training webinars. I just want you guys to know that they're out there. Whenever you guys are ready to start investing yourselves, if you feel like you need more instruction or guidance, just let me know. I'm not gonna. Nobody's going to be chasing you down. We want to make sure you know it's available to you should you choose to participate. Last week we had somebody indicate they're interested in learning more about how to flip. Basically make sure you fill in all those sequence gaps and do it successfully and properly. And by the way, this is going to sound like a plug. It's not meant to be, but everybody who's a current student or former student always gets any other program that we have for half price automatically. It's just there's no we don't care when you came through, what you took. Everything is available to you. So, in any case, Dana, my blood brother from Old Orchard Beach, Maine, is digging heavily into wholesaling. So if we have time, we'll touch on that. I don't know that we'll have time, honestly, because we got a pretty full slate here. So let me get to first to the email from Anthony. So hang on one second here. All right, Anthony Ogletree. Hi, Anthony. I hope you're on the call. If you're not, don't worry. You'll get the link for the replay. Real quick admin. So everybody who was who's just getting on since I started the recording, we did install the software to the website that's going to allow us to give you guys direct access to all of the content, all of the recorded, all of these training webinars are recorded, of course. So instead of getting a link in an email, you're going to get a link to the website. Basically, we'll be giving access to the website with your own login and password, where you can actually get not just a link, but the recording itself. Okay, that way you can fast forward, you can rewind, you can save it yourself, you can do all kinds of cool stuff. It's just going to make your lives a lot better. So just a quick admin thing there. Okay, now back to Anthony's email. Hi Gary, hope all is well. By the way, for everybody on the call, Anthony is a veteran. He went through back in the wintertime. So remember, when these veterans on all these webinars, guys, for all of those of you who are new or newer, you want to take advantage of this. You remember, I'm not the only one person out there doing this now. We've got several dozen students who are out there executing on a daily and weekly basis, and Anthony's one of them. He's done a number of campaigns, so don't be afraid to ask questions. My experience has been just like me. I didn't get to where I am by myself. In fact, I'll tell you this quickly. So this is a great little ditty to remember. I'm involved in a mastermind group called GoBundance, and it's the top guys in KW. David Osborne, Mike McCarthy, Rock Thomas, Pat Highban, you name it. And I came up with this myself. What I told the guys is I'm so appreciative and so grateful, because what I feel like is this. I didn't get to where I am because people below me pushed me up. I got to where I am because people above me reached down when I reached my hand up and asked for guidance, okay? And that's the kind of person Anthony Ogletree is. He reaches his hand up and asks for guidance, so he's climbing the mountain. Just let that ring in your ears for a moment, because I want you to think about it. Some of you guys are more engaged than others. Lou's another person, Lou Perica, not afraid to ask questions. Do it, guys. That's how you're going to grow, okay? All right, back to Anthony's email. I'm starting a marketing program to homeowners that are defaulted in their mortgages or are in one of the many stages of pre-foreclosure. I was wondering if you could talk about how to approach said homeowners and some things to include in my marketing mailers that may drive up the response rates. Should I market from the perspective of already having buyers on hand, or should I include my broker's letterhead and come from an angle of actually just listing the property for them? Okay, that is an excellent question, Anthony, and you're going to get what I hope to be an excellent answer. Two things. One of the beautiful things about being an investor and a realtor, an investor realtor, okay, investor agent, is you can wear multiple hats. You can approach many transactions from the perspective of an agent or an investor. Now, one thing I need to mention here, Anthony, is because you have a license, even if you're approaching a consumer or any transaction from the perspective solely of the investor, you have to disclose that you're a licensee. You always got to disclose. Pointed out, matter of fact, you know the old saying in real estate, it's location, location, location. Well, let me tell you, brother, when you're a broker, and I'm a broker, it's disclose, disclose, disclose. Always disclose. You can't go wrong. Once you disclose, you can tell them, hey, I'm looking at this strictly as an investor. I'm not interested in using my license, okay? You still can do that, but you have to disclose that you have a license. You can't get away from that no matter what. The only exception would be is if you're buying it property or you're wholesaling, for example, through an LLC, and another licensee is doing the transaction work for you, okay? It's a little bit of a gray area, but so far it's been holding up. In other words, you don't actively engage in paperwork, negotiating, anything. Your LLC does the buying, and all the paperwork's in the name of the LLC, and your other agent does the work for you, okay? That's the only exception that we're aware of. Okay, back to your question, how to market to these guys. Personally, what I would do is, since you had to disclose, I'd always, since you got to disclose, say I am an agent, and I do have buyers who are ready, willing, and able to buy properties just like yours. You have to use that kind of wording. You can't say buy your property, because you can't guarantee that, but you can certainly assure that you have ready, willing, and able buyers who want looking for properties just like theirs. Okay. Later on in your letter. And your letter should be very short, by the way, but later on in your letter, you can tell them if you prefer, you the consumer, this is you talking to them, Mr. and Mrs. Consumer, if you prefer not to use agency at all, any agents, don't worry, I am also an investor, and we can discuss it from that point of view also, and leave agency out of the deal, okay? That's the basic framework of your letter. Now, the specific wording, Anthony, and good news, the good thing these things are recorded, I would model it loosely after the letter I use to send people to get listings, particularly guys who own multi-unit properties. So if you know information about them, you know their property, obviously, you know their names. So the salutation in the letter should be name specific. You know, dear John, dear Mary. And if it's a doctor, if you're ever writing a doctor whose their chances are they're not losing their home, but if you were, doctors always want to be referred to as doctor and their last name. Okay. Everybody else I use first name. Then the first sentence you write them, say, I'm writing to you about your property located at 123 Main Street. Okay. Now the very next sentence is almost like the same one I use for people who own rental properties and may want to sell. And you say this: I'm not suggesting you sell your property if you don't want to. However, and then you get into your why they should listen to you, and you can tell them. Matter of fact, use the very next sentence that I use. Inventory is very tight right now, which it is, okay? And I have buyers like so-and-so, name them by last name, who are interested in properties just like yours, okay? Properties like yours, I would get specific, like they're interested in three-bedroom homes in this area, and you happen to be the owner of a three-bedroom home in this area. That's why I specifically seek you out. So, Anthony, when you use that kind of language, you diffuse their fears by the second sentence. First, you intrigue them because you name their property in the first sentence. Then you diffuse them. In other words, you give them a statement that basically empowers them to drop their barriers, okay, their resistance, which is, I'm not suggesting you sell your house if you don't want to, because they might not want to. They might think that they can get themselves out of this mess, okay? And then the next thing you do is you give him a fact, which is inventory is tight right now, and it is. Then you let them know that you walk the talk. You've got demand already. You've got buyers who want a property just like theirs, a 3-bedroom home in Bethel Park, for example, okay? And you can name one of them by last name. You do something like that, Anthony, your response rate is going to go way up, okay? You want to keep your letter short, as short as possible. The shorter the letter, the higher the response rate. I would absolutely handwrite the address on the envelope where you're going to send it to, and absolutely handwrite your return address. And on the envelope, do not indicate that you're a licensee on the envelope. You have to indicate that in the letter, but not on the envelope, okay? Now, I don't want to let air out of your balloon, but I do have to tell you this. It's been my experience and experience of thousands of other agents that when you're dealing with people in these circumstances, they're in default, they're behind on their mortgage at a minimum, they're facing potential foreclosure. They tend to shut out the rest of the world. People who are in that state of mind, and this is very important for everybody on this webinar to pay attention to. People in that state of mind who are in financial trouble, or they're going through divorce, or losing their house, or they haven't made payments for a month or two, they generally are going to be non-responsive. They're going to shut out the rest of the world. It's just a human nature activity. It's basically a defense mechanism that kicks in. It's just psychology, okay? So you have to come across sincere, authentic, and genuine as someone who's generally interested in trying to help them, okay? They're getting a lot of other letters, believe me. They're getting the yellow letters that people now know they're not really real letters. It's just a sophisticated marketing tool, but people can tell that they're not really handwritten, okay? I mean, once they see them, they generally throw them away. Something like this, you can handwrite it if you want, okay? I don't know how many of these you're going to send out. I generally have them typed up on my word processor because my handwriting stinks, but I always hand sign it, okay? Any case, if you use that kind of language, Anthony, you'll get a lot further than most other people who are approaching these guys. Another thing you can do too, go out to the property, go line up a bunch of properties that you want to market to, and go drive around on a Saturday morning from 9 to 12 and see if you see anybody out in the yard working. If they are, just approach them, be gentle, be polite, and use the same language you use in your letter, okay? And let them know, say, hi, I'm Anthony, I'm the guy that sent you that letter. What did you think? Okay? And if you look at them in the eye and you serve with a servant's heart, you will get more yeses. If you don't do that, you're going to get a lot of no's, okay? So let me see if I got any questions here so far on what I just described. Let's see. Okay. I like that. Thanks. Hard to find with emails. That's Patricia. Oh, you're welcome, Patricia. That's the response to the website comment. Hi, Gary. It's Anthony. Hey, Anthony. Good. You're on. I've been using the example letter you sent, and the response rate has been great on my absentee owner properties. Anthony, that is awesome. Okay. So everybody here on the webinar, again, Anthony's a veteran. He's telling you he's using the letter, okay? The example letter that I gave you all, and his response rate has been great, okay, on the absentee owners. He was going after absentee owners for a while. So that language, that letter that I give you to approach people who own rental properties, yes, you can apply that to a number of different scenarios. And Anthony, right here in one training webinar is just giving you 2 other examples, absentee owners and also people heading into default, okay? Let's see. This is from Adam Curry. Hi, Adam. How you doing, buddy? All right. I talked to a friend this weekend who has been investing. When he sends letters to approach owners, he's been imprinting a small picture of the person home on the letter. He said he's been having good results. Any thoughts on that? Yeah, I love that idea, and here's why. Good old-fashioned psychology. What he's doing is he's making an imprint. It's basically a mental imprint. He's putting something that's personally this person is attached to. It's an emotional attachment, which is your home. So he's putting a picture of this person's home on the letter. So when they open up, I don't know what kind of language he's using, but if he's using our kind of language and he puts that picture on there, that's even more powerful. So now you have multiple sources of input. This person is reading a letter that's specifically written to them, addressed to them, specifically about the property, and now they see a picture of the property too. Think about the emotional impact of that. That is an awesome idea. It's called anchoring. You're anchoring the person. You're basically using their emotional attachment to the house to anchor them to the letter and read the rest of the letter. So I hope you guys paid attention to that. Thank you, Adam, for sharing that. Okay, I'm going to move on to Miranda's email. So hang on one second, guys. That was Anthony, and here's from Miranda. Miranda, okay. Hi, Gary. Here are some questions, by the way. Miranda is from Arlington, Virginia, an awesome area right outside of Washington, D.C. So again, everybody who is in the San Francisco Bay Area, up around the Toronto area in Ontario, Canada, or around the Boston area should really be paying attention here, because those markets are very, very similar as far as inventory and pricing and what you have to do to get in touch with people, the marketing, okay? Okay, now everybody's paying attention. Good. I'm going to get a quick drink of water here, so hang on one second. All right, cash flow. In an area above average appreciation like Washington metro area, she's talking about Washington, D.C., is positive cash flow still a hard and fast requirement for investment properties? For example, is it okay for the cash flow to project positive 5 years into a 10-year investment? Example, a DC Metro townhouse is listed at $739,000 and you buy it for $720,000, knowing that the rent will not cover the expenses, but you know that the area is very good and the prices will go up. This is an A area exclusive. I know the area well. My dad lives in Alexandria, actually, at least part-time there. He's got 2 homes. There are only a few townhomes. The rest are condos and single homes. Single-family home prices vary from $800,000 to $1.5 million. Okay, this is a loaded question. We're going to give you a loaded answer. The answer is cash flow is always important. It doesn't matter what market. I don't care if it's Manhattan, okay? Now, within that context, what happens is many investors, particularly the high wage earners, okay, the self-employed people who provide product, services like dentistry, for example, orthodontics. This includes obviously doctors, lawyers, attorneys, chiropractors. They, particularly the doctors and attorneys and accountants and orthodontists, they are not afraid to put down a much higher down payment on a property or pay more upfront in cash and finance less if it means that they can basically park their capital, and that is part of their strategy. They want to park their capital, okay? At the same time, they at least want to cover their expenses. They want to cash flow enough to cover their expenses. And the reason is they feel like the market is going to continue to improve and appreciate. And I'd say in that market, that's true. And we've seen the same thing in the other markets I just described there, particularly in the last couple of years. Now, Toronto has been hot and heavy for a long, long time. It just hasn't missed a beat. Now, I don't want to scare people up in Ontario, but I study the market up there because obviously I spend part of my time up there also, out in London, Ontario. In fact, guys, I'll be, I think I told you this last week, I'll be up in Mississauga, Kitchener, Oshawa, and Newmarket the week before Labor Day, okay? Canadians, Americans both celebrate the same Labor Day, okay? I'll be there that week. If you guys want to meet up with me, just let me know. And most of you know that my sweetheart lives out in London, so I go up there anyways, at least twice a month, which isn't too far. So in any case, that marketplace, I've looked at the residential building permits and non-residential building permits. And here's what I want you guys to pay attention to if you're up in that area. And matter of fact, everybody in North America should be paying attention to this. When residential building permits are on the increase and non-residential building permits are on the decrease, that's going to tell you that sometime in the future there's going to be fewer jobs. In other words, if the economy is spending less money on non-residential building, i.e. business building, inevitably it's a mathematical certainty. That means there's going to be a slowdown in employment coming. Well, who's going to be living in all these houses that these guys are still building? In almost every real estate recession in the history, that's been one of the precursors. The residential builders just are too, they're not disciplined enough. They will not believe that it's going to slow down like tomorrow. The thing is, you don't know when it's going to slow down, but it's going to happen. When non-residential building drops and residential building increases, just look at the math, look at the graph. It's gonna happen. It has happened over and over and over again in the history of our economies. Okay. In any case, sorry to get off on a tangent. I don't know why I was getting into all that, but it is important information to know. Back to the question here from Miranda. So Miranda, there are many investors out there, but again, the high wage earners that I encourage you guys and give you marketing techniques to approach, who will put down more money so that they do have some cash flow. But they're also not looking at it just for cash flow. They're looking at it for capital appreciation, which is right in here in your email. Okay. I know investors who have bought properties in parts of California. I don't do it myself. I don't recommend it, but they will actually negative cash flow. They know, because they know it's only going to be that way for a couple of years, maybe 3 years. And then over the long haul, they're going to way more than make up for it. Okay. Let's see, cover it's 725, yeah, what she's saying here is if you don't have the income to cover the expenses, people still do it if they know their prices are going up, and the answer is yes, they will. Now, you have to look at the economy, though. In Washington, D.C., one of the reasons why, by the way, Washington, D.C. also, just like Toronto, really didn't miss a beat. Okay, during the last recession, as far as real estate goes, they kept plugging along. The reason is because they have a stable economy because of our federal government. The federal government did not lay people off. They kept growing and growing and growing. Okay, spending money, printing money like it's toilet paper. All right. Well, by the way, in Americans, you guys aren't off the hook either. It looks like 2016 we're headed for another dip, and the big problem is our government has been printing money like toilet paper. The trigger is going to be all those people who in this past recession went through loan workouts, okay? The kind of people that Anthony Ogletree is going to be going after. A lot of those deals are coming due, and they've got to make good on them. And it's going to be not a big problem, but a small problem that's going to trigger the bigger problem, which is all this worthless paper floating around out there, okay? And by the way, I'm a very positive person, and I had to be convinced of this. And I've looked at the numbers, and it seems like a mathematical certainty. Nobody knows how big or deep or long or broad. And something could change between now and then. Let's face it, next year is an election year. Lots could change, but you guys need to pay attention to this kind of stuff. All right. Okay. The rest are condos, single family homes go from, yeah. So I think we covered her first question. Now, second question is this. I want to turn my own residence into a rental property. What do I need to look for? Is this even advisable? How should I calculate the rate of return? Any advice? Yes. So what I would do is when you get the opportunity evaluator, that's the SL spreadsheet, Miranda, you can play with that. You can also use the rental property reporter link and play with that to plug in numbers and do what if scenarios for your property, because I don't know your property. I've never seen it, and I don't know what kind of rent you could get. And I don't know what your mortgage payment is if you have one. I mean, all those factors and you can use those two calculators to plug in those figures and do some what-if scenarios. Now, as far as legally speaking, in almost every residential area in the country, yes, any single individual homeowner can rent out their single-family home. I'm assuming you have a single-family home. If you have a condo, you have to check with your condo association, okay? And that includes, by the way, any townhome. Anytime you're in a condo situation, whether you've got a flat, i.e. an apartment, or a townhome, sometimes single-family homes are also in condo associations. You have to check with the bylaws. Make sure you can rent that out. Okay, if that's not a restriction, I've never seen an area yet in the country, and I've been all over, where you can't rent out your own home. If you were to try to divide it up into a duplex, now you've got to check with your local occupancy codes and do that kind of stuff. Okay. In any case, I would cover the legal basis first, ask those questions. They're easy to do. Call your local municipality, and they'll get you in touch with the right person. And if you're a condo association, you should have that right in your condo bylaws, okay? And after that, you just use those calculators and do what-if scenarios, all right? Now, third question is, Miranda's getting a real education tonight. Okay, how can I take advantage of, here it is, how can I take advantage of investor dollars from outside of USA? What are the rules for someone who does not have any permit to live here? Can they invest? And the answer is yes, they can. We have investors coming here. I personally have been involved with transactions of people from Australia, of course, Canada, Germany, England, let's see, India, Israel. I think that's just to name a few there. I don't know all the legalities, Miranda, but generally speaking, they're gonna if they're gonna be investing dollars in the U.S., they're going to be checking things out first themselves. Typically, they have to have. I would have them check with an attorney. In fact, here's what I would suggest you do: is let's see, are you Keller Williams? Yes, you are. You're in the Arlington office. Awesome. Tell Gabriel I said hello when you see him. He's an awesome dude, top performer. He just got on the cover page of one of the magazines down there. I forget which one it was. And he and I are both part of the same mastermind group. Any case, I would check with your title company that you affiliate with out of your office, Miranda. Okay. Pose this number 3 question to them, and they will get you in touch with the right attorney who deals with foreign investors investing in the States. There are some legalities they have to go through, very minor, nothing, nothing spectacular. Okay. But they can point you in the right direction, get you the right contact, and get you the right forms. And you don't have to get involved in that, by the way, other than knowing, making sure all the paperwork's done from the sales standpoint. But you knowing how it works is going to make you a more marketable, valuable agent too, by the way. Now, for everybody else in the country and in Canada, most foreign investors are coming to the States, but for you Canadians coming down to the U.S., we actually have had, I think, a student from Montreal was investing here in the States. So if you're on the call and I can't remember your name, maybe you could shoot us an email and let us know who you work through. A lot of people are going through attorneys in Chicago and who are doing basically international real estate transaction law and getting things done that way. Okay, number 4. You talk about using others' money to invest. Can you elaborate on this? And I really don't. I'm not sure where that came from, unless I maybe mentioned it in passing, but I'm not a big advocate of borrowing a lot of money. I'm actually a Dave Ramsey fan, and I've done all that no money down stuff in the past, and I can tell you from experience and actually show you mathematically that when you put your own money down, put down your 20% or 25% if necessary, get a bank loan for the rest at a nice low interest rate, 4 to 5% even for commercial. Okay, you're going to cash flow much better. You'll have built-in equity, and if something happens economically or you personally, you'll be in a much safer, less risky position should you need to rely on that property and the income from the property. When you go borrowing for down payments, now you're so highly leveraged that it's almost impossible to cash flow from month to month because stuff happens. A water tank goes this month. You need a new whatever. If you fail an inspection, you need a new handrail on your stairs the next month. Just stuff happens, okay? When you do that, you're at tremendous risk. So if something happens to you, divorce, death, loss of a job for you or a loved one, many things could happen. It could put you at grave risk and risk of losing your property. So I really don't advocate borrowing for down payments. If you absolutely have to, yes, you can borrow from a 401k. You can borrow from a whole life policy. Okay. You can buy a property from inside your self-directed IRA. There's a number of things you can do, and you can also get a private investor to work with you. Okay, and you mentioned this in your statement here, by the way, too. If you have a private investor, the investor, the agent who's going to be looking at buying the property, should be setting up an LLC. So I want you to write this down and think about this. If you have other people approaching you to invest, okay, and you want to form a partnership with them, absolutely form an LLC. You're the general partner, they're a limited partner. If you want to get really fancy, you can make another LLC be the general partner, okay? And then you can be another investor, a limited partner, just like the other guy with the money. Then that person is going to make a loan to the LLC to put funds inside the LLC to go buy a property. And there's a loan document actually documented to talk about that, okay? Let's see. I have a client who wants to give me money to invest. Bloom, bloom, bloom. The friend does not have anything to do with real estate, with investment. Excuse me. He only wants the money back plus 5% interest a year after 10 years. Is this something that can be done? Yes. What if the friend is in France? If they're in France, then Miranda, I think you and I should both fly to France and visit them in person, because you can surf in France, and I want to go surfing in France. So let's do that. We'll go together, okay? In any case, back to your question here. You absolutely can do that. I recommend, Miranda, you set up an LLC to do that, though. Don't, you wanted to limit yourself directly from the transaction. You want to give one layer of separation, which is the LLC, which gives you limited liability, okay? It makes it more professional looking, and actually protects you, okay? And your investor for that matter. So that's how you go about doing that. That's kind of an advanced technique. I do teach that on other programs. I don't get in that kind of level here in the investor agent program, because usually people are just dealing with flips in 1 to 4 units and new investors. However, if this is a steady stream of capital for you, then absolutely take advantage of it. Okay, let them fund the money, let them fund the down payment. Okay, and the LLC will get the loan for the remainder of the purchase, 80% or 75%. You both are going to be personal guarantors. You can't avoid that these days. And if you set up the LLC correctly, you've got a limited liability. And at the end of the day, you want your profit. Okay, that's what it's all about, is profiting. So hopefully I give you a couple of good guidelines there to start with. You might want to talk to Gabriel, by the way, because Gabriel's an investor, and he might have somebody he can point you to help you set up your LLC correctly. Could be your guy from your title company. Okay. All right. Let me check here for questions. Let's see. I think I'm caught up there in questions. I am. Hot diggity dog. Okay. So that was Miranda's email. Miranda, I hope I covered everything for you, enough for you to move on to your next level here. Okay, next one here is, by the way, since we're on the subject, let me go here real quick. Investing for rental profits and winning every time. It's actually a different title now. It's called Rental Profits Without the Pain. I'll have Beverly send it out. If somebody can send me a reminder email, I will send you this book. So Miranda, you're going to want to read this book, okay? Again, the title's changed. That one is actually in editing, so there'll be less typos, but the content's still there. And we talk about money, actually, investing basics in there. Here's the table of contents. I talk about a little bit about how money works, where you get money. Let's see, here it is. Yep, and passive income, passive. This is all about your LLCs. We talk about that. So, Miranda, this would be an awesome primer for you for getting into buying rentals. Okay. Here you go. Financing. Just say no. Now, I am in favor of financing up to 75 or 80%, particularly in today's market. Okay. However, I will tell you this: the less you can finance, the better. It's just puts you in a less risky position. I know it runs counter to everything we're always taught on late night TV. And trust me, I know Ron LeGrand, I know Than Merrill, I knew Russ Whitney. Okay, I never met Carlton Sheets, but I studied all this stuff. Long term, it is always best to be in a cash position. The only way you're going to get there is to start getting tough with yourself early on. I know a lot of people start off borrowing from every time they can hear it to get the deals to go through, okay? But you got to get to a point where you got some skin in the game, all right? It's going to tie you to your projects, so when times get tough, you'll stick with it. You won't walk away from them and have to start all over again, all right? You'll stick with your assets. You'll keep them, though you will benefit from that because you'll benefit from the turnaround, the economic turnaround when it occurs. If you bail out of your properties, you don't know when it's going to turn, and you miss the most critical point of a turnaround, which is the very beginning, okay? I like using money. I like using cash. No, I couldn't do it right in the beginning. It took me years to get to that point, but I can tell you it's a much, much better way to invest. And I know people out there right now are turning over in their graves saying, how can you say that? You shouldn't use any of your own money. Baloney. That's just what you were taught. And I was taught the same thing. And I can tell you I've lived both worlds, and this world is better. All right. Okay, enough said. We get into a lot of subjects. in this book, locating the right areas, identifying the right types of properties, analyzing the properties, how to find the right owners, and we actually here, check it out, how to find the right kind of realtor, which is you. All right, get into making offers, getting ready for the closing. We talk about property management at a very high level, and the fact that you can also flip these properties and wholesale them too. Okay, so all that stuff is in the book. You guys will all get that for free. And let's see. Looks like a question just came through here. Marina says, thank you. You're welcome. Okay. This is from Margaret. Other than the obvious need for an attorney, can you talk a little bit about a process of setting up an LLC? How does the money get in, out again, in and out again? What do we need to watch out for? Okay, this is Margaret. Hi, Margaret. How are you? Yeah, I tell you what, it is in the book here. I do talk about it in, I think, several of my books, actually, using LLCs. Fundamentally this, though, here's the deal. There's multiple types of LLCs. An LLC is simply a legal entity that allows people like us, individuals, to set up a company, make it look like either a corporation, make it look like a C Corp, for example, or you can make it look like a partnership, okay? You can also make it look like a sole proprietorship. All the while, you've got liability protection. It gives you the liability protection of a corporation, but gives you the flexibility of a small entity, okay? And if you're an individual single member LLC, like most of mine were, it allows you to have what's called pass-through income, okay? So you can enjoy the benefits of passive income from your rentals and have that income pass through your LLC to you personally on your tax returns, okay? So you get all these wonderful benefits of having liability protection and also corporate benefits of being able to determine when you pay your taxes. If you want to do a fiscal year, you get to do all your write-offs first before you claim income. All these wonderful benefits. Now, to set up an LLC, single member LLC, if you've never done one before, I highly recommend you get an attorney. Always start with your local title company and see who they recommend, okay? You can also go to your local investor club and see who they recommend. Usually they'll have an attorney, several of them, that do this for a smaller fee because they have so much business coming in from the other investors. Now, if you're like me, and I don't recommend you do this, I've been around real estate my entire life. I've owned multiple businesses. I'm very comfortable with contract law. I have set up my own LLCs, all right? I don't recommend that though, unless, and I, by the way, one of my best friends was an attorney, all right, or is an attorney, excuse me. But in any case, for a few $100s, it's worth it setting up your first one. Future LLCs, if it's the same basic principle, in other words, you're setting up a holding tank for your rental properties, and they're all going to be the same look, you can just duplicate your old one, create a new one. That's what I did, okay? Now, here's the difference. When you get into LLCs that have multiple members, like two friends or a parent and a child or two siblings, you definitely want to get an LLC. I'm sorry, get an attorney to create the LLC for you, all right? And I mentioned this the other week, Margaret, maybe it was last week. Here's why. Getting into the LLC is the easy part. That's the fun part because everybody's excited. We're going to make a lot of money. The hard part is documenting your exit strategy because everybody doesn't want to think about it. They're thinking only what's in front of them. I'm going to make money now, okay? But you have to think about your exit strategy, and you definitely have to think about it if you're going to involve more than one member because stuff happens in life. We just mentioned this earlier. People are born, people die, people get married, people get divorced, people get jobs, people lose jobs. It's going to happen eventually. When that does, you've got to have a predefined set of steps to execute should those eventualities occur. In other words, make your decisions ahead of time when you're of sound mind and body and not when you're in haste, not when you're in crisis mode. You don't want to make those decisions when you're in crisis mode. Have those decisions ready-made so when something happens, if and when it happens, you already have defined what you're going to do as a result of that, okay? Now, to put money in the LLC, generally the members of the LLC will fund it. And if it's a single member LLC, yeah, you can say you've got shares of stock, but the reality is you're 100% owner, okay? And you have to show where the money came from, or you should document where it came from. If it comes from anywhere other than you cash out of savings, actually, here's what I would say though: no matter where it comes from, I would document the funding of the LLC in the form of a loan. Okay, you, Margaret, loan the money to your LLC, and the LLC is going to pay you back. That's a smart way to do business. Just check with your accountant and your tax attorney, and they'll go into all the reasons why. If you just straight fund it, that's okay. You're just simply buying shares of your LLC with your own cash. I've done that too, but I think it's wiser to set it up in the form of a loan. Okay, that's how you get money, and getting money out. It's really just a matter of writing checks from a checking account, and then your accounting system, your bookkeeping system, is going to document what the money was for, okay, who it went to, and with an attached invoice, you know what you're paying for. And if you're paying the lender back, you as the lender, it's going to be in the form of a loan payment. So getting money out is not an issue, okay, or in for that matter. And it goes, that's just some high-level stuff to think about, Margaret. Let's see here. What else should she say? What do we need to watch out for? I kind of gave you that too. All right, this is Andrew. Hi, Andrew. Do you have any prepared info to give to investors / clients about getting into rentals, multi-unit rentals, and what strategies to use in building wealth in rentals? That's Andrew Patterson. Okay, Andrew, I'll tell you what. The book that Beverly's going to send you, again, I need one of you guys to send me a reminder email so that I don't forget, because I'm going to send you 2 books actually. Use that book to give to them. Okay, use that book as a marketing technique for you. You know, I know my name and number is going to be in there. I don't want the lead. I don't need it. But you do. What you ought to do is say, hey, you know, here's something you can use. It's a free gift. And by the way, here's my business card. You can attach it to them. So use that to your advantage. You don't have to create anything. It's already done for you. Okay. It gives them real life stories. So I don't just paint the pie in the sky picture. I'm different. I actually tell people the good, the bad, and the ugly. That way people are grounded when they make their decisions to invest, grounded in reality, and not have their heads floating around the clouds. Okay. You've all seen me teach. You know that before every presentation, I bring people back down to earth with real world examples of what you can expect. I do the same thing in my writing. So I recommend you just use the book. Use it to your advantage. I wrote it to give to you guys that you can use to help yourselves be more prosperous. Okay. Okay. This is Margaret. So don't forget the prenup. Thanks, Margaret. Yeah, I know my stepmom just told me that this past week, and she said, "What you do if you ever get married, Gary? Make sure you get a prenup." And I do agree. It's just I'm a romantic and I can't help myself. I like to think that when you fall in love, it's forever. Although I got my own life experience that tells me otherwise, but I can't help it. I'm a hopeless romantic. So, in any case, no, I'm not getting married anytime soon. I probably will eventually because I do want to, but I'm also being smart about it. So, in any case, or being grown up about it, I guess you could say. Okay, let's see here. I want to go to now. Melanie Robinson sent an email, and she wanted to know about our training program for buying flip properties, for flipping. So let me go to that book here. So tonight is another twofer. Last week you got a book on wholesaling and how do you manage properties once you own them, and for your clients too, for that matter. This week we get a book on how to flip homes and how to buy rentals. So you guys are really getting a lot of good stuff here. Any case, so for Melanie, what I would do is, Melanie, I would start by reading the book. I'm not trying to dissuade you from taking another training program, but currently you're in a training program right now, and I'd like to see you finish it and use the information, the tools, and the techniques to generate some additional cash flow for yourself. Okay, get these commissions coming in on a regular, consistent basis so that then you can go out and flip your own homes. I think you should buy rentals first, but inevitably most people just want to flip homes, and I get it. Okay, but read the book first, and then what we'll do is on your strategy call, Melanie, let's talk about your particular launch, because if you're already an investor, I have launched many students down the investor path first before they ended up generating additional commissions, because that's what they wanted to do, and they were able to do it safely and profitably. Okay, that may be your case. If that's the case, let's rock and roll. But first, start by reading the book here. Go through the program that you're currently in, and we'll get you off on the right track. I'm going to be offering some of these courses is it September or October? I think it's September. But it's not anything I'm going to really be actively promoting. It's just going to be people who are aware of it and ask for it. And we'll do some pilot programs and some beta tests. We've already done it for the one on rental properties without the pain, how to actually buy rental properties. And it's an awesome way to learn. You actually are part of the process where we go through editing and publishing and all that. You guys come through that program with me. And the people who do that, I'll tell you this, guys, I did it myself with a number of programs in the past. You talk about a great way to learn. When you're in on the ground floor of developing something like that, it is the best way to learn. You get direct access to the teacher, in this case me, and to other students, and everybody succeeds. I mean, their success rate's 100% because it has to be, okay? So keep that in mind. I just gave you the key to the vault there. So look for that to come. Right now I'm focused on this program and helping my current students get to where they want to be. So in any case, look for that book, Miranda, but I'll give you some highlights while we're here on the call, okay? We always start off again with the definition of what it is we're trying to accomplish, okay? Introduction, the goal obviously is independence and freedom, all right? We talk about investing basics. This is the same beginning of every book I have. We always talk about money first. I want you to understand how money works, okay? Now, I've seen it from both sides. I've been a consumer, actually multiple sides. I've been a consumer. I've been a producer. Basically, we're in a capitalist society, okay? So I've been a consumer and a producer, and I have been a banker, okay? So I have a little bit of understanding about money that a lot of people don't have. Banking will actually screw you up if you're not careful. But I want you to learn how money works first. It's a commodity, just like pork bellies and real estate and the auto industry. Money is actually a commodity, and I'll explain more of that. When you look at this, you'll know a little bit more about what I'm talking about. Okay, and we talk about the tax benefits, okay, of being in real estate and what you get when you're flipping and what you don't get when you're flipping, okay. We talk about LLCs. We talk about financing, okay. Again, when you're flipping, boy, I tell you what, guys, I know a lot of you are going to not like me when I tell you this. And this is why I want you to build a rental portfolio first, is this. When you go to flip homes, I want you to be purely on a cash basis. I know a lot of you right now, your hearts just leaped up in your throats. I understand. You don't have to do it today. You don't have to do it tomorrow. I want you to work towards that as an objective, to be on a cash basis for flips. And here's why. Once you master the game of rentals, you greatly reduce risk and you greatly maximize income. Now you've got passive residual income coming in. So when you go out to flip, if a flip doesn't work, you're still in the investing game, okay? You've got lots of confidence, and you got lots of cash flow coming in. If you start off flipping and a flip doesn't work, it can not only knock you out of that particular transaction, it can knock you out of the game for good, and then you're no use to anybody, okay? So back to what I was describing here. So if you work on your cash flow first by serving other investors, get commissions up and running, get the experience, then you go out and buy rentals. Now you've got passive residual income. Then when you go to do flip homes, it's a lot easier to work on a cash basis because you've improved your cash flow game. You got cash flow coming in from commissions, you got cash flow coming in from rents. Okay, and you've also got equity built up in your properties, okay, that you can get a commercial loan to borrow against. It has to be a private commercial loan, but you can do that. Now when you go to buy properties, you're operating from a cash basis that's not going to hurt you. Even if you borrowed money, at least you borrowed it from yourself. And that I talk about this, by the way, in here, financing. I talk about this. See, when people hear me say I don't like borrowing money, I don't like borrowing money from other people. I don't mind borrowing money from myself, okay? I can borrow money from a 401k, from a whole life policy. I can borrow money from equity in my existing properties. So the bottom line is I've limited the scope of my liability. I've limited the scope of my risks. I've limited the scope of who I owe money to, who I'm indebted to, because I'm indebted only to myself. and I'm okay with being indebted to myself. Okay, I'm going to make sure I pay myself. All right, does that make sense? So you can borrow money against equity in your properties. You just got to find the right lenders. And I've got a guy that I don't want to. Well, I can tell you, it's Brockler Financial. Okay, guy's pretty cool, and he'll let you borrow money against equity in your rental properties. Okay, we get into focusing in on the right areas. I give you some of that in the free classes that I teach, but there's more to it than that. We get into the actual specific things to look for, like aesthetics. Okay, we get into that. Let's see. We talk about what areas to invest in economically. Here's some more about what types of properties to look for, where they're located, what to be around, how to analyze the flips. Okay, it's analyzing flips is different than analyzing rentals, obviously, because there's two different strategies. Okay, how to find the right owners. The right owners for flipping are usually not the right owners for buying rentals, and vice versa. Okay. Again, we talk about the right kind of realtor, which is you. Get into the offers. The offers are different on flips than they are on rentals. Okay. Different due diligence clauses and different formulas to use. We go over the formulas. Get you ready for the closing. And again, we talk about wholesaling if that's something you want to get into. We talk about the contractors. Lots of good, what I call meat and potatoes in this section here. Real good grassroots, practical stuff that anybody can use. Then we finally talk about, okay, where does the money come from? How do you, what happens on payday, and what are other options you have with a flip? Okay. So in any case, that's just some of I want to give you some ideas of what you get in that book there. Let me go back to the questions. That was Margaret. Don't forget the prenup. Everybody's afraid I'm going to get married. I'm still technically single, guys. Okay. All right. I'm in. Would love to participate. That must be Adam. Okay, Adam, that sounds cool. Adam, by the way, sometimes your names get chopped off again on a really short statement. If it's a one-sentence statement, the names tend to get chopped off for some reason. Okay, if you buy a rental with 25% down and get a loan, and let's say you get positive cash flow on a rental of $250 a month, would you put that money as principal on the same loan? You mentioned to use the cash flow to invest. Considering this is a low amount, not sure where it should be invested. And that question is from Patricia Harris. Hi, Patricia. Very good question. I love these questions, guys. Okay. Yeah, put some skin in the game, guys. Okay, it's just like when you get married. For you guys out there, gentlemen, you give the woman you want to marry a ring that you spend a lot of money on. You've got skin in the game. Okay, that's why you do it that way. No woman's going to say, "Oh, sure, I'll marry you," and you don't put a ring on her finger. Well, maybe some women will. I don't know, but I'm sure I'll get a few laughs there. But the reality is you want to put some skin in the game in anything you do in life, and that includes real estate investing. So, all right, back to let's see, Patricia's question here. So what I would do, Patricia, this is what I did. Okay, when I was building my portfolio, I had an elderly gentleman named Gerhard Flufelder. This is after Socrates' dad passed away. He's the one who told me to be patient. And he said, you may think it's going to take you a long time to build wealth and income by being patient, but he said it's not. He said by being patient, you make wise decisions and you avoid more errors and mistakes. And you create more opportunities for yourself to grow and prosper more fruitfully, more successfully, and more abundantly over a longer period of time. And I'm telling you, he's absolutely right. So what I did is I took all my cash flow in the beginning, Patricia, for the first 5 years, I took every bit of cash flow and put it in new properties. I didn't pay off the existing loans. Okay, I didn't start doing that till later. What I did was when I was in growth mode, I started taking the cash flow, banking it, putting it in an account that earned just interest. It was a very safe, like a money market account or something. And as I accumulated cash in there, I would use that for down payments on future properties. Now, as you might imagine, Patricia, each time I added a property to my portfolio, I also increased my cash flow, okay? And I had more cash going in on a monthly basis to be used for down payments on future properties. Now, if you do a line graph, and do a line from bottom left to top right, you can see how over time that bar starts to bend upwards and go upwards more rapidly. That's because as each time you add a property, generating cash flow, you're adding power to your savings bucket, which is your down payment bucket for the next property. Now, I got to several hundred units, and after a while I was on a cash basis, all right? And what I started doing was paying down my other mortgages, all right? Especially the ones that were still at 8 and 8.5%, because I bought a lot of them in the 90s. So you guys are lucky. I had this spend a lot more money on mortgage payments than you guys do, and I actually started doing 15-year terms too. So, and that's the other thing I did, Patricia, is I started buying with 15-year terms, which means I'm paying them off a lot faster. Okay, those are the wonderful things that begin to happen when you follow the methodology that I teach. Again, it looks like it's the slow, disciplined, boring way. But I will promise you this: if you just do the math, okay, on real life experience, compare the technique where you have no money into it, you're borrowing from everybody, and you're 100% finance, and give some real world examples of what happens when something goes wrong. Then do another line of reasoning, another chart, another piece of paper where you put down 20, 25%. Had lower interest rates, had lower payments, cash flowed more. What happens when those things happen? When you got to buy a new water tank, it doesn't hurt so badly. Okay, you're still in the game by a wide margin. Over time, you accumulate cash to buy more properties. You will see that graph, that path, over time far exceeds what we call the flatline path. Okay, and if you look at the top investors in the world, every one of them follows that technique. Okay, every single one of them. Maybe not in the beginning, but over time they do. Okay, because money talks. Cash is king, always has been, always will, period. Okay, let's see. Margaret, laugh out loud. I was referring to the LLC partnership and the need for an exit plan. Thanks, Margaret. Yeah, you do have to, by the way, I have seen married couples form partnerships because it's a smart thing to do. And by the way, I will tell you this in kind of summation here. It's 5 after 8. And this is important. It's a personal statement, but it's very, very pertinent to this business discussion. Okay. I've had a lot of students tell me, I don't need to do an LLC because I love this person. He's my brother. I don't need to do an LLC because we would never do anything to hurt each other. We're married, or we're parent and child. No. You do these things, you create the LLCs, and you document your exit strategies because you love the person, okay? Because you're wise enough to know that, and eventually, if you live long enough, something's going to happen that's going to change your circumstances. And if you're tied to someone else, either through a partnership or marriage or both, you're going to drag them along with you, okay? You have to think of the other person, think of the future. Don't just think of right now. Think of the inevitable, what could go wrong. And document it and be prepared for it. That's what you do when you love somebody. Okay? All right, take a deep breath there because I just gave you a head full. Let's see here. This is Andrew Patterson. All right, so just to clarify, you mean have some money invested and still leverage some borrowed money, or the goal should be 100% cash for your rental property should be the goal? Actually, the answer is yes to both. So in the beginning, Andrew, when you're in the building phase, real estate, it's expected that you're going to be leveraged, okay? And it's okay to be leveraged when you're in the building stage. Leverage as much as you're able to up to those limits. In other words, up to the 75, 80%. Long term, yes, the goal should be to be on a cash basis. I promise you this. You get on a cash basis on your properties where you owe nothing. Can you imagine the freedom you'll have, the freedom and independence? Now, I'm going to give you a benchmark here. I know we're running late, but I just want to get this out there. There's 2 benchmarks I want you guys to consider. The first one is one you've always heard anyways, and that is you should never borrow more than 1/3 principal and interest, 1/3 of your cash flow. The same thing applies to rental properties. So if you have $1,000 coming in cash flow, your principal and interest should not be more than $333. Okay, that's my Gary Wilson rule. In the beginning, yeah, maybe half of that. Your principal and interest may be $500 or 50% of your cash flow. I get it. I understand. That's when you're leveraging 75, 80%. What I want you to get, though, to is this, is the 1/3, 2/3 ratio. And when it comes to income and expense, the debt, the principal and interest, the debt portion of your expenses, not taxes, not insurance, just principal and interest, should not be more than 1/3 of your rental income. Okay, it's easier to do that when you buy 2, 3, and 4 unit buildings, not single family homes so much. Now, that's the income expense ratio, profit and loss ratio. On the asset liability side, it's the reverse. It's 2/3, 1/3. In other words, you should not owe more than 2/3 of what you own. So if you owe a $100,000 building, I want you to make your goal to be where you don't owe more than $67,000 on a $100,000 property. I know I just told you can borrow up to 75, 80%, and that's true when you're building. But what you want to do is strategize to where you can improve your property and raise the rents, so that now you're not going to be able to change your payment that much, if at all, but you can change your rents. So you can address it from the upside. You can improve your property, raise your rents. So now instead of collecting, let's say you've got a $500 principal and interest payment on your mortgage and you're getting $1,000 income coming in. That's a 50% debt ratio, okay, on income expense. To get that to be 1/3, what have you got to do? You can't really reduce your payment, can you, without refinancing? But you can raise your rents over time by making improvements to your property and raising your rents. Can you raise it $500 over time? Yes, you can. Okay. That's just an example. So I want you to think about that ratio. That ratio for me was the magic ratio. 1/3, 2/3 on expense to income, and 2/3, 1/3 on what you owe versus what you own. That's a lot to digest there, guys. Boy, I really got through a lot of information tonight. We had some awesome questions, though. Awesome emails. I love these emails. Guys, send them to me, to Gary at consideritsold.net, and we'll get them covered in these training sessions. We actually did talk about wholesaling a while ago. If you guys want me to talk about wholesaling, just let me know. Everybody should have gotten the book. I think that was last week, and I'll be meeting Dana Truman. And what I'll do is I'll get Dana Truman on one of these webinars. He's been on them before. He's a veteran. After I meet with him on Labor Day weekend, we'll set up maybe a special interview with him, and I'll have him share with you guys what he's doing for wholesaling. See if you like it. I personally choose not to do it. Okay, I do teach it, and I've done it. I just don't personally do it myself, but other people do. Okay, so keep that in mind. Let's see if there's any other questions here before I go. And I don't see any more. But I want to thank you all very much again for being on this live Q&A webinar. I always appreciate the opportunity to teach and serve and help you guys grow and prosper. Please remember every morning, write down what it is you're going to do that day, roll up your sleeves and take action. I actually want you to do it the night before. I'm going to send you another motivational video. I hope you guys watch them. I do that stuff every day for myself, and it does, over time, it does have a dramatic effect on your performance and your profitability and your prosperity. Okay. I hope you all have a blessed week and an awesome weekend this weekend coming up, and I will see you next week, which is going to be next Thursday night. I will be in Alexandria, Old Town. That's Alexandria, Virginia, and we'll do that coaching call on the 20th next Thursday. Okay. So we will see you all then. Hope you guys have a wonderful night, great weekend, and God bless you all. Thanks. Bye-bye.